For 10 long years, Kareem cleaned the same office building every single day. Yet somehow, nobody ever seemed to notice him. Most employees walked right past him without a second glance. To them, Kareem was almost completely invisible. Every single morning, Kareem greeted people with the same warm and genuine smile. He never missed a day, but most people never replied. They simply kept walking past him without even making eye contact. Strangely, Kareem never seemed upset by it. He quietly continued his work and carried on with his day. What nobody realized was that Kareem listened carefully to nearly every conversation happening around him. And even more surprising, he understood every single word that he heard throughout the office. Then one ordinary afternoon, an important announcement suddenly changed the entire atmosphere inside the company. A major international client from New York was scheduled to visit the company in just a few days. Almost instantly, everyone became nervous and excited. The pressure in the office could be felt everywhere. The client was arriving in only 3 days. With every passing hour, time seemed to move faster. Managers wanted everything to be absolutely perfect before the meeting. Suddenly, every small detail mattered. Everywhere Daniel looked, people seemed busy and confident. At least, that's how it appeared on the surface. But one manager looked more nervous than anyone else. His name was Daniel. Daniel carried a secret that nobody in the office knew. His English wasn't as strong as people believed. He practiced presentations for hours every single day. Yet somehow, his confidence never seemed to last. Every small mistake made him even more nervous, and the meeting felt closer with each passing day. One evening, after another difficult practice session, Daniel remained alone in the office long after work. He stopped speaking halfway through his presentation. Then he let out a long, frustrated sigh. Watching quietly from nearby, Kareem finally decided to say something for the very first time. "Your presentation is actually very good," Kareem said calmly from the doorway, breaking the silence of the empty office. Daniel looked up in surprise. He wasn't expecting anyone else to still be there. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke a single word. The room felt completely still. Then Kareem continued speaking. His English sounded clear, natural, and remarkably confident. Daniel stared at him in disbelief. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The quiet janitor spoke English better than most of the managers working in the company. Daniel slowly stood up from his chair. Confusion and curiosity were written all over his face. "How do you speak English so well?" he finally asked, unable to hide his surprise. Kareem smiled gently. It was clearly a question he had been asked many times before. Instead of answering right away, Kareem calmly pulled up a chair and sat down beside him. After a long silence, Kareem looked at Daniel and smiled softly before finally speaking. "There was a time when English was my entire world," he said quietly, remembering the past. Daniel leaned forward with curiosity. He could tell there was much more to the story. More than 20 years earlier, Kareem had worked as a respected and dedicated English teacher. He loved teaching every single day. It gave purpose, meaning, and direction to his life. His students respected him deeply, and many eventually grew into successful professionals and leaders. But life doesn't always follow the plans we carefully create for ourselves. Then, one unexpected tragedy changed everything and turned his entire world upside down. Within only a few months, Kareem lost nearly everything he had spent years building. Before long, he found himself searching for any job that could help support his family. The next morning, Kareem accepted a janitor position at a large company and quietly began rebuilding his life. The work was very different from teaching, but Kareem promised himself he would never stop learning. For many years, he quietly improved his skills while almost nobody around him paid attention. Back in the present, Daniel listened carefully to every word Kareem shared about his journey. Over the next 2 days, Kareem helped Daniel prepare for the most important meeting of his career. With every practice session, Daniel grew more confident, and the fear that once controlled him slowly disappeared. Then the big day finally arrived, and the entire office could feel the pressure building. That same morning, the international client landed and headed directly toward the company headquarters. Inside the office, everyone looked busy and professional, but nervous energy filled the air. What nobody realized was that an unexpected problem was about to change everything. The meeting began smoothly, and everyone believed the most difficult part was already behind them. Then the client asked an unexpected question that nobody in the room had prepared for. The room suddenly fell silent. Every manager slowly turned and looked toward Daniel. Daniel tried to answer the question, but the words refused to come out clearly. Within seconds, panic began spreading across the room much faster than anyone expected. Then a familiar voice spoke calmly from the doorway behind them, breaking the silence. Kareem politely answered the client's question in perfect, confident, and professional English. The client smiled immediately. It was exactly the answer he had been looking for. One question quickly became 2. Then 2 became 5, and Kareem answered everyone. The room was no longer looking at a janitor. They were looking at a teacher. When the meeting finally ended, the room remained completely silent for several long moments. The same people who once ignored Kareem were now looking at him with genuine respect. The client stood up, walked directly toward Kareem, and offered him a firm handshake. "I've met many executives before, but very few teachers like you," he said sincerely. For a moment, Kareem simply smiled and lowered his eyes with quiet humility. Recognition felt good, but it was never the thing Kareem valued most in life. Helping someone succeed had always been the greatest reward he could ever receive. Before leaving, Kareem decided to share one final lesson with Daniel. Never judge people by their position. You never truly know their story. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room has the most valuable voice of all.